Thanks very much.
Okay.
Hi, I hope everyone's having a great time. Are you having a good time?
So, I like this.
Okay.
So, do you know what the future is? Do you understand? Who's got the? I mean, come on. Let's forget about the future. Let's talk about betting, right? Let's just like place bets on something. You remember that scene in Back to the Future when he finds the sports book from the future and goes, "Oh my God, I've got all the answers." Right? That's what we need to do. Okay. Right, let's talk about the future. Oh, this is an interesting chair. God. This doesn't really feel... I need to kind of like get into this. Okay, so everybody, when you see this man and you don't know how to pronounce his name, you just call him Jem. Okay? Everybody, after me. 1, 2, 3. Jem. Okay? Jem Sertoglu. Do not pronounce the G. And next, we have Keizo.
Yep. You got the right,
Thank
correct
you.
pronunciation.
God.
Good.
Keizo. Okay, I can't do the last name. Go, you do your last name.
Okay, last name is Tsutsui. I'm Japanese, and somebody said we love Bulgarian yogurt. I eat it every day.
Oh my God. Do you know, can I just say thank you for karaoke? Thank you. Wait, thank you for karaoke. Thank you for inventing karaoke. It really, honestly, I think it's actually one of the most exciting, it's the best thing you've ever invented.
Inventions of Japanese.
I mean, forget, the Sony Walkman. I mean, come on, karaoke, baby. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Look, we're just going to shoot the breeze, frankly, guys. We've got a little bit of time to just like, we're just going to have a bit of fun. We just thought, we're not really going to, be kind of that, that panel where, yes, I know, blockchain's going to be big. Right? Uh-huh. How many people have got Bitcoin? Huh? Right? No, don't put your name. No, fuck it. Like, what the hell? Anyway, so what I think is interesting, actually, here's the problem. The problem about thinking about the future is that you think about it in terms of what's going on right now. We think about, like for instance, we've got a car over there. We think about driverless cars. We think, oh yeah, sure, okay, so in a couple of years I'll just like jump in my Tesla, cough, and it'll drive me to work, no problem. But it's a lot more complicated than that. And we think about it in the future usually in terms of the technologies that we know today, rather than thinking about how things, change. I was doing a little bit of literally sort of mucking around, looking at some ideas for talking about this subject, and I looked up a set of predictions about the future. And one of them was that we'll all be wearing Google Glass, right? And of course, we're not. This never happened. And in fact, interestingly, though, we are going to be doing a little bit of Snapchat glass. I think there's something in that. But I think it's a little bit faddish. I'm not really sure about that. But this is the problem. We have a problem with the future, don't we, Jem? I mean, you're an investor. You get pitched all the time by startups, and they say, this is going to be hugely massive, But they don't pitch you in terms of 5 years from hence. They pitch you usually cookie cutter stuff, B2B enterprise, for instance, that is actually what's happening now. And I think actually that's a very useful approach. Instead of thinking about what's big, they think about what's happening now and what's happening next. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. Now, I think the future, when you look back, looks like progress and future happens as a step function. I think in reality it happens in very small increments, and it's actually a bit of a boring story. Smartphones are innovation. They, 20 years ago, looking forward, I think it'd be very interesting to sort of predict that everybody in this room would have one, maybe two smartphones in their pocket.
Yeah.
It looks like, looking back, it looks like, oh, Apple released the iPhone, and all of a sudden we had smartphones. It didn't really happen like that. You know, we had the Palm. You know, we had BlackBerry. It was incremental.
There was a thing called Palm Pilot, if anybody remembers. Also a thing called a Trio. Oh my God, I loved my Trio. Oh my God, so totally showing my age, but I don't care. You know. Now, this guy's got the best job in the world, ladies and gentlemen. This guy has got the best job in the world. He's funded by a Japanese company, Next, now he lives in Barcelona, and his job is to find out what happens next. Boom, thank you. That is the best job in the world. What I love about, we were chatting about this, about how Japan, for instance, you got sort of two brains, haven't you? You've got Japanese brain, you've got your Western brain.
Right.
I love it. And we were talking about how Japan is kind of still sort of 50-50, you know, to some extent still entrepreneurial, but also and interested in the future, but also very conservative as well. You know, but what are some of the things that you sort of come across that you think that, you know, this is very interesting?
So I think for the mainstream, okay, some of the things people talk about, like the VR, the AR, the vision thing, I think that will come. Or what most of us, we look at, hype cycle. Most of us are, we excited about leading edge, bleeding edge, but most of the mainstream or conservative people, they wait for like 5 years. So like VR, it was, I guess, hyped like a couple of years ago. Now it's, hype is over. Now it's the time, maybe not now, like 3-5 years, that's when the mainstream will come. That type of things. And also, right now I have the company I work for in Japan is a real estate. So I deal with real estate agencies.
Yeah.
And those are the
I'm
people.
so sorry.
Those
I
are the people
apologize.
who are the
Real
really
estate.
late comers, and that actually, you can tell, like when they start using these 360 cameras now, that means probably 5 years VR will come, so something like that. So I think that's good to see, like when you talk to like real estate agents or some of those people who are not tech savvy, you can sort of kind of predict 3 years or 5 years when they're gonna catch up. And also, as you mentioned, predicting future, one of the things I guess fortunate about Japan is it's an aging society, and many of the developing countries are now catching up. Japan right now, I think it's 1/4 of people are over 60 or something, and it's gonna get worse. And a lot of like Western European countries will be like that. So you kind of need to think what's gonna happen when there are so many older people. Then like maybe like medicine and all those things will be the big one, like 5-10 years from now.
This is fascinating, isn't it? Because to some extent, your society in Japan, the society there is already a vision of the future. They're already there, and in a way, I remember going to Japan a few years ago. So who's seen Blade Runner? Yeah, that made such a beautiful movie. And I remember going to Tokyo once, and it was raining, and I got out of the metro. Everything was wet, totally drenched, people running past with umbrellas, and I just thought, I'm in Blade Runner. This is gorgeous. It's so amazing. But I think to some extent, you're absolutely correct. When people live to 100, 120, this is obviously going to happen. Especially the way, if you look at technologies like CRISPR, how DNA is being hacked now to make people live longer, to get rid of disease, to change the way, to stop cancer, for instance, of course. That's obviously going to happen. And in a way, you guys are, certainly Japan is already in the future. So I think if we wanted to think about what's going to happen next, it would be incredibly instructive to go to that society. But the flip side, of course, is, as you're saying, property, the most conservative industry at all. Now, interestingly, in London, prop tech is quite big. You heard about this? Well, everywhere as well. It's because
it's the biggest industry in the world.
GEM is based out of Istanbul, but investing, all over the place. What do you think was going on?
I mean, I think it's a matter of size.
Mm.
I think, when you look at disruption hitting certain industries, I think Uber taught the world a very interesting lesson that, taxis, nobody really thought it was a big problem.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's a famous story of investors passing on Uber because they looked at the San Francisco taxi market and said, oh, okay, well, if we get 25% of this, will this be a large company or whatnot? We know the story. So real estate, property is the largest industry in the world. It's the largest capital stock pretty much in every country. So,
But it's a hugely conservative market.
it is a conservative market, but there is an existing value chain in the industry. And if you take the supercomputer in everybody's pocket today, and if you take some of the problems inherent in the transactions within the real estate domain, and try to solve some of it with this, just like Uber did it with taxis or cars, and Airbnb's doing it with the hotels, and all of a sudden you have the sky's the limit in terms of the value you can create. So I think smart entrepreneurs are going after it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because there's a startup out of New York called Breather. Is it Breathe or Breather? I think it's Breather. And this guy comes up to me a couple of years ago and says, so I'm going to put a smart lock on a door, and you're going to unlock it with your app, and when you want to breathe in the city, when you want to take a meeting or you would just want to get out of the hustle and bustle, you find the nearest room that you can literally rent by the hour and unlock it with your app, walk in, sit down, plug in your phone, your laptop, maybe boil a kettle and have a cup of tea or something, and that's it. And then you pay by the hour, you're done, boom. Of course, I said this is the most amazing business model for prostitution. and he didn't answer. However, it's now raised $60 million, and there you go. And I think the interesting thing is how, I want to go back again to the point I made earlier about how you think about the future in terms of, don't think about the future in terms of smart locks. Think about the future in terms of how people live, how people are going to behave. What are some of the things? Let's cover off some of the things that we hear about all the time. Blockchain, VR, AR. That's entertainment. What I think is interestingly, this company one company recently just raised $33 million in 12 minutes just on a blockchain ICO.
It's brave.
Yeah. So venture capital, it's over. Yes.
I don't think so.
Why?
Capital is just one of the things that a company needs to grow. It needs other types of resources, input.
This is the thing. I think the thing about venture capital is not really about the venture capital, the money itself. It's about the network.
So I think some of it is a network. I think some of it is, right now we're seeing these ICOs where companies that have a token built into their business model are able to sort of monetize or just finance their early development by selling the idea that those tokens will have utility in the future. In the case of the example you gave, I think it's to sort of build applications onto a new browser platform, you need to use these tokens, so people are buying it. We do see there is an enormous amount of demand, but the utility is yet to be seen. I think they're being very pragmatic and smart about it. Hats off. They raised $30 million, something like that.
Yeah.
It's and
in 12 minutes.
It's fantastic, but how many more companies can do that today? There's I think limited supply of investors who are willing to buy those tokens today. And I guess the expectation is that those tokens will go up in value similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum's. And
investing is often over several. You look at an investing timeline; it's usually over about 10 years. What are the things that you are most interested in right now, and where do you think the fund's going to be in 5 years?
So it could be many different. So some of the things we talked about, I'm interested in all of them. So like the blockchains and VR, AR, or voice interface.
So like Alexa type stuff.
Yeah, Alexa and then artificial intelligence.
That's going to be.
It's going to be huge. Just as I said, when you I think if you're an entrepreneur, it's best thing is to talk to your grandfathers and grandmothers and see what they want to do. And like voice interface is one of the things I think is great for the people over age of 70 or 80. They don't want to move. They can't. They don't want to type these smartphones. It's great. You just talk to the Echo or the Google Home or whatever, and that's everything, right? Turn off the lights and order milk, whatever.
I think this is absolutely true because it's interesting because a lot of the technologies really are based on interface. Uber solved taxis not by being a sort of demand-side platform for taxis, but by making it really easy. So, obviously Siri was actually a Norwegian startup that was acquired by Apple. Alexa is based on a Cambridge technology startup called Evie, and that was about kind of like a Google interface. But what do you think? What do you think is going to come out of the? I mean, Apple obviously launched its new. What is it called again? The Pod.
Right.
Apple
Yeah, the Pod, yeah.
where you set. Do you think? I mean, there's what I think is going to be very interesting is the way that Apple and Amazon and Google are going to open that up to developers. Entrepreneurs often miss the future because they are trying to. They're cookie cutting. They're just trying to chase, food delivery or something. But food delivery is basically over right now. We're done. We're done with food delivery.
I don't know. You should ask
No?
Delivery Hero as well to do an IPO. And
But I mean, you wouldn't do a startup around food delivery right now, would you?
if it's a problem, I would. If it's a problem somewhere, I would absolutely.
What would you do? What would you do a startup right now that would be big in 5 years?
I'll tell you about my latest investment.
Go on then. Oh God, this is such a VC question.
Because
I'll tell you about my
it's
latest investment.
It's a 30-year-old Turkish accounting software, enterprise software company, quite stale. They've been growing. They're very profitable.
Yeah.
But we thought there'd be an enormous opportunity to
But
essentially
what was
grow
different
it
about
by.
them?
Huge install base. The product has not been they haven't been investing into the product, and we think that there's a huge opportunity to modernize the product and take it to that install base. And the company, I think, has a good 10, 20 times growth ahead of it. It's a 30-year-old company.
No way.
It's extremely boring. When you look at it, it's the opposite of.
I think we can
Google Glass.
run towards the future sometimes too quickly and forget that there are still really fascinating problems to be solved by real human beings right now that need to be solved right now. I mean, what are you excited about right now?
So I'm definitely as I said, I'm interested in like voice interface.
Yeah.
Just like like eBay dominated the auction market, but they missed the smartphone. So now Lego and all these smartphone auctions are big now, and it's gonna be somebody who's gonna be voice interface. So all the apps, in my opinion, all the apps on the smartphone can be replaced by voice interface app.
Do you think that chatbots are kind of the first?
It's first. I
First
mean,
way of
there are
doing
like
that.
hundreds of chatbots right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, yeah.
But after this hype is over, I think it should be it's convenient, and we use one of them, and it should be. But it is all these deep learning, artificial intelligence should be coming, and that's definitely going to change.
I think that's a really good point. You have to think about it's coming back to us, isn't it, as human beings to some extent. And as AI and machine learning gets better and better and better, people are just going to go, oh, what am I doing launching an app? I just want a car. I want a car. I want a taxi. I just want this. I'm here. I just don't think about it. I've had a fascinating chat with a guy recently about what would happen when you married the blockchain with a distributed or federated version of Uber. That you could federate the concept of transport instead of having it owned by one company. And that would be super fascinating, and Travis Kalanick would be possibly in trouble. Well, all I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, it's been fascinating. We've been throwing around ideas, but I want to leave you with this thought, which is that you don't think about the future in terms of what's happening now. You think about the experiences that human beings still need to solve, the problems that we still need to solve as a society. And I don't think that just launching an app or just launching a website solves those things. The things that you will, as entrepreneurs, will be creating that will be big in the next 5 years will still ultimately come back to the problems that human beings and societies need to solve. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and have a great day. Okay, let's go.